Right, we left off with the meeting with Eva and how I managed to defeat her and send her to terrifying hell. Well, in this moment a tremendous amount of things were happening. Everything was condensed into a few months, and at a particular point, which I couldn't really point out precisely which day of 1994, but it was in October, the entirety of nature was realized. The idea for nature was born. Of course, I hadn't yet got the idea for nature. That came to me later. But there's a part in me that runs backwards in time as well as a part of me that runs forwards in time, you see. Things that work like that. Now, there is a God whose name is God, actually. It's actually God, G-O-D. He was born with the name God. And he was born on a ship called the Titanic. He instinctively did his first job. He steered the ship, or rather he steered the iceberg towards the ship, and he sank the ship, and he being a Negro, he got treated rather badly while the ship was sinking. He went to the bar and asked for whiskey and was insulted by the barman. Anyway, God simply dived off the ship and swam for hours and hours and hours and hours in the icy cold waters, and then crossed a space-time barrier. So he was immersed in a flash of blue light, and he found himself in the central metaphysical wall. Now, there he was in warmer waters, and he continued swimming, and eventually arrived to an island that he identified as being his instinctively, and he walked up a drive, and he arrived eventually at a large palace, an enormous palace, entered it and found a bedroom and fell asleep. Then, of course, the next, well, not the next morning, it could have been the next afternoon, but when he woke up, he was studying his face in the mirror and asking, why on earth do I have a face like this? I, who am actually born with the name God, because he felt his self-importance, because God, with the name God, is the essential personality of nature. Well, God was perplexed. Not that he was put off or anything, no, but he was perplexed. He had the most beautiful face, and so he was not at all put off by his appearance, but he was perplexed at this, because there was an instinctive thing that he knew, that it is actually forbidden to be of that colour. And so later on in his life he made a law that it is permitted if you have his permission. So the major gods and a lot of major goddesses are all Negroes. So there was outside at that moment, lying on a deck chair beside a swimming pool, the goddess White. The goddess White was born lying in a deck chair beside the swimming pool. And of course the goddess White, how she is, she's an entirely different personality from God. So she was studying her face in a mirror, which she produced in a flash of blue light. And she studied her face and she said to herself, how beautiful. I really must be the most beautiful woman to exist. Then she looked at everything around her and she saw how beautiful everything was. She examined the tiny little insects in the ground. And she examined all the flowers around and everything. And she said, this is so beautiful. And she was completely calm. And she entered the palace to be faced with a scene which was quite amusing for her. Because in that time while she had been admiring herself, God's brother Satan had been born, and an argument had begun between the two, because you see, Satan wanted to be the commander of nature. But God says only the God with the name God can be commander of nature. And, well, things continued like that. But anyway, God won the battle, and they remained the most let's say, attached brothers for the rest of all of time up to now. Satan is a kind of joking God. Unless God himself is ill, then he takes over and he runs nature with total seriousness. Otherwise he spends his time messing around and joking. Anyway, that's today's episode.